It's Brand Messaging Tuesday. Can we say that? It's not like Taco Tuesday, but it's Brand Messaging Tuesday. So the last few weeks, I've been talking a lot about brand messaging and how to use it to tap into the human side of your marketing. And I want to go a little bit deeper into that because everyone in your audience, regardless of whether your customers are small businesses, enterprises, nonprofits, individual people, consumers, whoever your customers are, they are humans and they have very human needs, human wants, human fears, human motivations, all of these things, because they'll have lives outside of the sphere of where you engage with them. And so maybe they're worried about their job. Maybe they're worried about looking good to their company, to their boss. Maybe they're worried about making payroll. Whatever it is that their problem is, they have a whole bunch of things that exist outside of the sphere of what you do together and what you do for them, whether you sell products, whether you sell services. So why do I get into that when we talk about brand messaging? Because brand messaging is the way that you talk about your business. And so you've got to be able to pull in the power of story in order to really, truly engage people and build the foundation for these relationships, especially when so much of your relationship happens offline. And when I say offline, it means not directly one-on-one. It happens in an online sphere where it's one-to-many as opposed to one-to-one. Now, some of it is built one-to-one, but a lot of the way that they interact with your business is before they even speak with you. Generally speaking, that's the truth. So going through a brand messaging process is really all about figuring out their wants, their fears, and how you can deliver on that with your services. It like marries brand strategy with customer research to give you powerful, impactful brand messaging. And so here's why that's important. It is one thing to get this beautiful presentation, this beautiful slideshow, and know what the messaging is. What are the key tenets? What are the high-level themes? What do we need to make sure that we are hammering in every communication as much as possible to layer in these, 3, 4, 6, 8 things that you want to be known for. The more things you want to be known for, the more complicated it gets. But they may all be very closely related. So I say this because I recently did a brand messaging project for a client who has these 6 key characteristics. And so they need to make sure that those are layered into as much of their messaging as possible because they're all really valuable to their audience, each one of those 6 things. So coming back to this, most people, when they get a brand messaging document, get something that's fairly lengthy and it's packed with valuable information, valuable customer personas, valuable statements about what your customers are saying, service message positioning, service positioning, service value props, high-level benefits to the clients, what you would say about each one of these benefits based on where your client is, what they're saying, how they're feeling, whether they're top of funnel, middle of funnel, bottom of funnel. It's a lot, right? And so you can look at this and then say, okay, this is great. How do I implement this into my business? Because the entire reason that you have probably done this brand messaging process is you're either getting ready to do a rebrand or a rewrite of your website, and your copywriter needs to have this information so they can nail it, right? Maybe you've realized there's some kind of a messaging disconnect. One hand is talking about something one way, one hand is talking about something another way. And what you're doing in the meantime with this misaligned messaging is confusing your audience. And that's the last thing that you want, because you want people to have a consistent experience. You want them to have well-managed expectations about what it's like to work with you. So once you have that brand messaging strategy, it's absolutely vital to integrate it with your business. Your business, and when I say your business, whether you are your business, whether you have a team of 100 people, whether you're on a team of 100 people, whatever that looks like, all of the elements of that business have got to be on the same page. And I'm talking sales, I'm talking marketing, I'm talking operations and delivery, and all of these pieces that have different touch points with the customer, but their interactions with the customer are often siloed. So if marketing has someone, they hand them off to sales, sales has someone, they hand them off to operations. If those 3 areas aren't in key alignment, your customer is going to be like, oh my gosh, what the heck am I getting here? What am I signing up for? What do I do? Right? So that's where your brand messaging comes in. But when it comes to onboarding new team members or implementing this new story, you've got to get everyone on the same page. And it's more of an uphill battle for people who've been in the company for a while. Again, this could be you. You could be your own bottleneck for messaging if this is your business or you have a very small team. And it's normal, may or may not be okay. And that's a different conversation, to be fair. But when you're onboarding people, it's really easy to get them aligned with what you're doing because this is the one way you teach them. When you are implementing a new brand strategy, updated brand strategy, new brand messaging, whatever that is, you've got to get your whole team on the same page. So you've got to get it implemented. So there are 6 key ways to go about that. And I'm not talking about trainings and workshops and town halls. That is also a conversation for another time in terms of onboarding your team. I'm talking about like actual tactical ways to implement the brand messaging so that it appears consistently everywhere that you show up. So to illustrate this just a little bit more, one thing that you can do, whether on your own or maybe your consultant who's doing brand messaging will offer it, is to create a say this, not that cheat sheet so that you can print it off or PDF it, hand it to your team members. And it's basically like the Cliff Notes for quick reference so that, if there's phrases you're retiring, alternative options, key messaging points, differentiators, key themes, any of these high-level notes that you want people to understand about your company, this cheat sheet will give them a reference point so that they are taking away the most important messages, the most important pieces. And you want to have the rest of the document, right, to back it up, whether you've got data in there, whatever this looks like. But when you have these say this, not that cheat sheets, it makes it so much easier, whether you're hiring writers, all these things, because then they say, oh, I shouldn't talk about this person as a client. I should talk about them as a family member or, whatever it is. And that's maybe not the best example, but again, here I go on the fly. So that's one strategy, is to create the say this, not that cheat sheets. And then you can have trainings, you can have workshops for your existing team. And I can talk to you also about kind of how to create those if that's something you want to go down the path of. For the short term, though, creating the cheat sheets, showing people how to use them, and then referring back to them as you give feedback to people is intensely powerful. You also want to update or rebrand your website. You may have heard me talking about your website as a 24/7 salesperson. And it's true. That is probably one of the very first places people go to check you out, see that you're legitimate, see that you're credible, see that you have some level of authority. If we're talking in Google terms, it would be the EEAT, the experience, expertise, authority, and trustworthiness of your content for Google. But for your website, it's got to do that for your customers as well. And so if you have recently updated your brand strategy or your messaging, you need to make sure that your website reflects that updated information. So maybe you're starting from scratch. Maybe you're like casting all the old off and starting anew. In that case, it's less of a, it's less of an audit and more of a start over. But if you're auditing things, you want to identify how your website speaks to your audience, how well it communicates your value prop and converts visitors, a list of all of the pages on your site, if there's any that aren't relevant anymore that you can move or add redirects to, like if you're removing a page, you want to redirect it to something else that's similar but drives value and works with what you want to work with. You also want to see if it's portraying the story, the brand message that you want people to take away from your business, right? And then are there any opportunities to improve the way you're showing up on your existing content? With that, you can create an action plan. I do incidentally have a 10-point website copy checklist that looks at all of the things on your site holistically and also offers like 30 quick fixes that you can employ right now. If any one point of the website copy checklist, you're like, I need to do better there, but you don't know where to start, there are 3 starting points for each item. I can also help you with this. So you can certainly reach out to me, hit me up in the DMs, send me a note, carrier pigeon, whatever that takes to get in touch with me. We can set something up. I do a lot of website rebrands for people. And a lot of times we focus on the main core high-level pages like home, about, services, maybe individual services, and then hand it over to you to update individual blog content, that sort of thing. You also want to look at your funnel emails. So this is strategy number 3. And not just your funnel emails, but your entire funnel. So if you've redone your entire brand messaging, you need to go back to that funnel and see, okay, how are people coming into the door? What does that message look like? Does that need to be updated? What does my nurture sequence look like? How, or if this is not automated, what does the script look like? Are we saying the right message at the right time? Is my offer on par for this funnel, or is this funnel actually selling into my offer? How am I talking about that offer? How does this tie into my updated brand messaging? And also at this point, it's also a good time to look at how it's converting your audience. And if it's not converting, it's worthwhile to take some time to dive in, because it may not be that you need more leads. It may need that you need to better qualify or better educate the leads that you have so you can form those valuable relationships. So that's 3. Here I go. There's 3 more. You also will want to update any critical assets. So yes, your website and funnel are critical assets. And maybe you've covered everything there, but it's a good time to perform a marketing audit to see everything that you've got, all of your social channels and their descriptions, all of your blog posts and articles if you've written them, any downloads, lead magnets, case studies, any of these things that are telling your story, that are tapping into your customers' motivations, desires, wants, fears. Because if it's not telling the right story, it's probably not serving you appropriately. So then once you've got this list, you're going to review it and you're going to say, do these things work towards my goals? If they don't work to my goals, can I update them? And if so, how? What do I need to do? This also gives you an action plan. So you can line them out one by one and just tackle them piece by piece, hand it off to a writer to update. That's something I often do for customers. It's like, okay, this is no longer in line, or this is no longer accurate. Well, let's go ahead and make sure that it's correct. And I actually recently did that with my own post on SEO. So you can see, if you ever look at it, it was like, SEO myths and misconceptions. And so I recently updated it and said for 2023, and then left a note in there that's like, hey, this was originally written in 2019. I've updated it for, current best practices. That way, if it's already generating traffic, if it's already maybe converting people, you can capitalize on it. Then again, if you have like way older content that is no longer accurate, that no longer serves you, you can ditch it, especially if it's not generating a whole lot of traffic. And that's another point too. Like, do I want to keep it? Do I want to redirect the URL? Do I want to remove it? What does this look like? Anyway, so critical assets here. Our blog post critical assets, that's perhaps beauty's in the eye of the beholder, so to speak, but there are a number of things that you can look at there. You want to revamp your 90-day marketing strategy and content plan. Oh yeah, this is a big one. And it's something that's going to be slow. Like, you're not going to, if you've already got this 90-day marketing calendar set up, you're not going to want to just tear it to shreds and start from scratch, most likely. You can still do some of the things that you're doing and slowly be implementing the new ideas into the themes. But as you build out the next 90 days, the next quarter, set some time aside to review it and make sure that your content strategy, your marketing plan fits the goals, audience needs, wants, and allows you to tell the stories that you need to tell. If you don't have a 90-day content strategy, that's actually one of my ranking articles on Google. You can just type in 90-day content strategy and you'll see mine come up. It gives you some tactical ideas for creating it. I also, a lot of times, will help people create a 90-day content strategy. I'll often do it in a VIP workshop where we do it sit down for a day together. We talk through all the things you have, all the things you need, and then identify the content and a structural outline for it so that you can start attracting, nurturing, educating, and converting your audience. Lastly, develop thought leadership content. This is something that's huge because not enough people actually produce quality thought leadership content. And it's not necessarily about developing this groundbreaking new approach. It is about setting yourself up as an authority because your secret sauce is inside your brain. Your secret sauce isn't the mechanics of, okay, I write a blog, I use this structure, I post it, I disseminate it across all of these platforms. No, your secret sauce is your perspective. It is drawn from the years of experience that have brought you to this point, all of the things you've done that have led you here, all of the different pieces that you are actually taking away. And because there are 3 primary ways that people consume content, audio, video, reading, your thought leadership content can be any of those or a blend, or you can repurpose it across all of those. Use your audience on multiple platforms. Do you need video and podcast? Do you need video and blog? Do you need something mixing all of that together? You can totally do that. And in fact, tying that back up into strategy 5, which is your content and marketing strategy, figure out how you can repurpose this. And that's something that I do a lot. Like we talk about thematic content, like hubs. It's not really a hub and spoke content, but it's a thematic content piece. So we come up with one big piece and it's like, okay, we can turn this into like 3 emails. We can turn this into like 12 social posts. We can turn this into a video. There's so much that we can actually do with this. So as you're developing thought leadership content, now that I've kind of gotten off my soapbox of why it's so valuable, why it's so important, it's about reviewing your brand messaging to find some of these common problems or questions your audience has. If you have statements like, I'm so tired of, I wish I could, ... how can you flip that into a story? How can you turn that into a challenge to show your authority, to tell people what they can get out of working with you, to show how you're doing things, to really tap into their emotions, to build this relationship and to show yourself up, set yourself up as the authority that you truly are. Because it's true, again, whether you work in a business, you own a business, you work for yourself, you're a solopreneur, whatever that looks like, you have value to bring. And it's not about recycling other information. It's about sharing your perspective and your approach. And your brand messaging platform should give you seeds for all of this. But then to refine it further, pay attention to common questions your audience has. Pay attention to conversations, questions you see or you hear. And again, that's a lot of times it's really, really difficult for people to tell their own story, to tell their own business. So if this sounds familiar, if you're like, I have all these ideas and I just can't turn them into story, or I have this half-baked idea, but it's not like coming together. I, a lot of times, will work with clients and it's like, we'll have a conversation. We'll talk about all of the things. I'll turn it into a story and put the story together. And then it's something that you can publish. So if that's something you want to talk about, whether it's a one-off, whether it's like a retainer, I'd love to chat about that too. See, like there's so much that you can do with brand messaging. It is absolutely like this focal point and central to everything that you're doing. Here I go talking with my hands again. Clearly, I have a lot of coffee in my system. The bottom line is brand messaging makeovers are vital for your business. If you have not done one, if you have not reviewed your brand strategy or your brand messaging in any amount of time, you may have noticed that the world has gone through a few major changes over the last 3 or 4 years. So it's a good time, if you haven't been doing this, to come back through and do it. So if you've had a disconnect in sales and marketing, if you've had all these leads come in and they're not converting, if there's some kind of disconnect between what you think you're selling and what your audience thinks they're buying, messaging is the answer. So would love to discuss this further with you. If I can answer questions. Again, tag me, hit me up in the comments here, or reach out to me via email. Erin at erinpennings.com. I would love to chat with you. Have an amazing, amazing week.